by film.
5,
Stand by music.
4,
Stand by announce.
3, 2, 1.
And fade up.
Fish are friends, not food.
Make it Centauri time.
Too much iron in your blood.
Buddy the Elf, what's your favorite color?
Hey, what happened? Let's fly!
Let's get pissed and watch boom.
Hello, you got a base.
Are you saying there's something wrong with my gear?
We're going streaking!
He found me!
He's doing his Superman thing.
I still only counts as one!
Why is the rum always gone?
All right, let's wing it. All right, well, welcome everyone to a brand new episode of 20 Years, 4 Beers. We are a podcast dedicated to rewatching movies from 2 decades ago while simultaneously enjoying a minimum of 4 modern beers. My name is Steve, and this is my big brother,
Tim,
and we are coming to you from Minneapolis, Minnesota. We have just watched and recorded our episode on Old School, so go check that one out. And as usual, we sit together afterwards and discuss another film over another beer. So we refer to these as our happy hour episodes.
Hey, you guys. Happy hour is from 4 to 6.
In this happy hour, we will be discussing 2003's surprising hit indie comedy, Bend It Like Beckham. Bend It Like Beckham is the story of 2 young women living in London who both wind up seeking out their dream of being professional soccer, aka football, players in America. Each come at this from very different perspectives, and while they form a strong friendship, they must also deal with family problems, boy issues, and many other social issues along the way, all to find a way to potentially make it big in the end. The film is written and directed by Gurinder Chadha and stars Keira Knightley, Parminder Nagra, and Jonathan Rhys-Meyers. There are other people in it, but I went with those 3 because it's predominantly those 3.
nobody else, yep.
And those English cricket players threw me out of their club like a dog. I never complained. On the contrary, I vowed that I will never play again. Who suffered? Me. But I don't want Jessie to suffer. I don't want her to make the same mistakes that her father made of accepting life, accepting situations. I want her to fight. And I want her to win. Because I've seen her playing, she's brilliant. I don't think anybody has the right of stopping her. Two daughters made happy on one day. What else can your father ask for?
At least I've taught her full Indian dinner. The rest is up to God.
Our first segment, as usual, is Drinking Buddies.
Come on, not my beer.
Where we present the 4 beers that we had, 2 for each of us since we watched these separately, and then another one that we're enjoying right now, and give our expert ratings. Tim, why don't you start us off with the 2 that you had?
I enjoyed the Brewing Projects, which is a brewery out of Eau Claire, Wisconsin.
Yep.
Their Resist Pina Colada Milkshake IPA.
Is it that far ago, or was it because like
they haven't
had it, and then you must have had it because you texted me like, "Oh my god, this is amazing! I forgot how good this was."
Oh, yeah.
So then you had it during the episode.
Yes,
gotcha.
I did while I was watching it. It is so good. Like,
yeah,
it's the best.
I remember when
I think on the market.
It's the best, and it's the best Resist that
Yes.
they ever released. Yeah, when they released that, holy cow!
Yes, we're like, oh my god.
There were a few. It was that and like what's the one from Big Lake? The
Lupulin,
the Blissful Ignorance when that came out. Like there were a few beers in the last few, like it was like, you got to get this one.
Yeah, the Resist Pina Colada Milkshake IPA, and Milkshake IPAs were the rage for so long.
Yeah,
but none could
There's
quite
about that Pina Colada.
Oh, it's so good. It's 4.75 for me, and I saw in the lecture. I'm like, yup, and I will definitely seek it out whenever it comes out.
It's been a while since I've seen it.
Right
in the liquor store.
Yeah,
yeah.
That's why I grabbed it. It was so good. Oh, it's so good. And then theme
right
beer,
Look at
record scratch, Milk and Honey Cidery, which is out of St. Joseph, Minnesota. They have the Chaga Chai spice cider, which in Hindu,
you. Jesus.
chai
Sure.
is tea. So the movie takes place or has a central character who is
Yeah.
Hindu.
Sure.
Thank
Yeah.
you. It's 4.25 for me. It's one of those beer or the ciders where I actually saw it at the liquor store and it was out.
Yeah.
And I'm like, okay, maybe it's the best one. So I got it. And it's like the kombucha lady's like meme where she's like,
Mhm.
no, wait. It's really good.
Really?
Like, yeah.
Well, I haven't. Because I haven't been there yet. I haven't
Yeah.
made it up there. But
No, but you can get the store and it's really good. It's one of those like spiced ciders that is really, really good. So check it out. But yeah, 4.25 for me. I love it. What'd you have?
we recently rewatched Bad Words. And so every time I hear chai, I always think of Chaiwala or whatever. Like,
Don't look at me.
Yeah, well, that's a different. Yeah.
Yes, yeah.
And yeah, Jason Bateman would be like, Chaiwala, I don't want to hear from you for the rest of the night.
So good.
Or hey, Chaiwala, why don't you go to your chai papa?
It's good.
Anyway,
What'd you have?
I had out of Hop Butcher Brewing Company out of Chicago, Illinois, their Meet the Citras, which I thought was better the first time around when I had it, and then we had it again recently, and I was like, oh, it's still good. But I had a 4.25 out of 5 at the time. I'm going to stick with that rating. I think I probably would have had 4 out of 5 when we had it the second time.
Yeah.
But I really liked it. The Fully Citra beer, it's a great beer. And then I bought, the other beer I bought was solely based on the name, and it was out of Abomination Brewing Company from North Haven, Connecticut. And it was 2022 while we're at it, double IPA.
Wow.
Yeah. I was like, I'm buying it.
Hardcore.
Yeah. I mean, it was like, yep, F 2022 while we're at it, double IPA. I had a 4 out of 5. I was kind of hoping it would be even better, but it was still totally fine. But it was like an end of the year, must have been an end of the year, like F 2022 while we're at it, and your dog too. But anyway.
You'd expect more if it's like that type of like
I kind of like that aggressive. I was hoping it would be like a much more like Todd the Axeman's double and things like that. But no, it was fine. It was 4 out of 5. It was super enjoyable, but I was like, I think I have to buy this based on the name. Because I didn't want 2 IPAs. I was kind of hoping to go with a sour or a stout. But I was like, nope, got to do it.
Or a chai cider.
A chai cider that never I would buy ever.
It's so good.
Great. And I want to go there. So that'll be I never need to drive up that way except for bad habit, but there you go.
There you go. And then tonight we're enjoying Wild Mind Brewing out of Minneapolis. Their Space Madness double IPA with Nelson Sauvin, Rowana, Motueka, and Cascade hops.
Sure.
This is really good. To me, it's a 4.25 for me. I like the kind of hazy nature of it, and it's a good double IPA. Yeah.
I have a 4 out of 5 initially, just because it's like, it is good, but I'm also like, this tastes a lot like some of their other IPAs and double IPAs that have been on tap. And so I'm kind of like, it's good, but I'm like, okay.
The Rowana?
Sure. Yeah. Totally. The Nelson Sauvin really pops out.
Yes, exactly.
All right. So our next segment, we'll just naturally pivot over into the social network.
If you guys were the inventors of Facebook, you'd have invented Facebook.
Where we take a look back at the critical and fan reception from 20 years ago. As usual, Tim is nice enough to research these, so please take it away, Tim.
The IMDb rating is 6.7 out of 10. And Steven Rosen.
That's really interesting to me. It's like 0.3 lower than Old School.
Right?
Okay. All right.
I know.
Huh.
I know. Why would it be that low?
Anyway, yeah. Interesting.
Thanks, users.
Yep.
Steven Rosen of the Denver Post said, Bend It Like Beckham elicits laughs and the kind of rousing root for the underdog enthusiasm that translates well in any culture.
Yep.
Owen Gleiberman of Entertainment Weekly said, made with a craftsmanship that restores your appreciation for honest commercial movie making. Bend It Like Beckham puts a new definition of femininity on screen, casual and cool and in your face. Roger Ebert had 3.5 out of 4. Big man Raj, I know, right? He said there's an emerging genre of comedies focused on second and third generation young people breaking loose from traditional
Take your time.
we'll get there. From traditional parents. My Big Fat Greek Wedding, the most recent and spectacular example.
Yep.
Bend It Like Beckham is good not because it is blindingly original, but is flawless in executing what is, after all, a dependable formula which appeals to a wide audience. And Academy Awards nominations, none that year.
Yeah.
So
0 for 2 so far this year.
Yep.
You know, it struck me the film made like 80 million at the box office, which at the time was still pretty good. But
Same
they
as
made
Old
it for
School.
5. You know what I mean? And
That's crazy.
Yeah. So I mean, we're not talking about the natural comparison here is My Big Fat Greek Wedding.
Yes.
And we'll talk about that in a little bit. Which made $250 million or whatever on a budget of like 4. And I mean, it was like the highest grossing
2 years
film ever at the time. So, I mean, I get that, but so we're not on that same level, but it was still a surprising hit.
Yes.
For a movie that was technically released in 2002 in Britain, but then it was released in 2003 here.
Mm-hmm.
And it was just kind of like, it's a fun movie. So, I mean, it's kind of interesting but that 6.7 is kind of surprising to me.
It's really low.
It feels really low.
Yes.
That might be one of our lowest.
Probably.
Right? I mean,
Yes.
I had an argument today with somebody at lunch about Spirited Away and how amazing it is. And I was like, yeah, except it's garbage. Right? So I'm like, and that movie probably has like an 8 point something on IMDb or something.
Yes.
Like, you know, whereas this at 6.7, and I'd be like, oh, I'll watch this movie all the time.
Yes.
So anyway. All right. Well, with the beers and reviews out of the way, that brings us to Spotlight.
They knew, and they let it happen.
Our reactions segment where we highlight and discuss our top takeaways of any kind from rewatching the film. I guess I'll start.
Yep.
Because I just already talked about it. It is very much like I actually feel like it's a little bit more of a lower budget version of My Big Fat Greek Wedding.
Mm-hmm.
Like, I think, but it's very much like My Big Fat Greek Wedding in style, bringing seemingly different cultures to mainstream, right? Using someone else as a proxy. Like My Big Fat Greek Wedding brings the future husband into this world, you know, and Jess, who is our sort of main character, and then Jules,
Jules,
right? Who's Keira Knightley's character, is sort of like brought into Jess's world of her family and stuff like that. So we're kind of brought along with Jules here. And it's especially as they show like the strict rules set by cultural requirements and expectations for women. It's very similar in feel when it comes to that sort of like expectation. And I say that in a loving way because we both loved My Big Fat Greek Wedding, as did millions of other people,
justifiably.
And I would put this on that. Like if you like that movie, you should watch this movie and just go like, this is the same kind of feel, but very much more low budget feel.
Yes.
Right. I mean, they're probably made for about the same budget, I bet, if I looked that up. But like, this feels much more low budget and raw. I really enjoy this film. But that my first takeaway is just that it's an inarguable comparison between those two films.
Yes.
And I think it still can live up to that expectation.
Well, the one from last year had Tom Hanks producing, so
Rita Wilson and Tom Hanks.
Sure.
All right.
Yeah.
I'm just saying.
I'm a jerk.
Yeah.
That might help in the production of it. But yes.
Yeah.
So I was definitely
equality
intrigued to watch this because I remember seeing it in the theater and thinking, this is a delightful movie.
Yeah.
And having not watched it in 20 years. So watching it again.
Yeah.
And I was oddly impressed at how progressive the film was for a 2003 release. So while it centers around a young generation pushing back against the constraints and expectations of their parents, I did not remember the movie having such a heavy storyline around not just kind of the cultural clash of different races and such, but like gender norms and homosexuality and like the perception, like at the time, like watching me like, oh my God, this is way more interesting than I thought it was at the time, where I was like, romance thing. No, it's much more intriguing as far as the the main characters, the two of them, with their gender identity, and it was nice to see that.
Yeah.
As a kind of 2003 release. So I was shocked in many ways of watching it back and be like, wow, they were ahead of the curve in many ways with this. So I thoroughly enjoyed it. I'm so happy we watched it. But yeah, it was a surprising thing for me.
Yeah, what I appreciate is there were all these rumors about the original script had the two main characters getting together and this kind of stuff, and that just actually wasn't the case. It was never supposed to be that way, right?
Not to say like it's not
to be this sapphic, like whatever. I'm saying,
nice.
Like, it wasn't meant to be that way. That's not what this is. It's literally a like. This is a female dominated story of two women who are friends and who, but. What I loved about it, like taking what you're talking about, is society would have looked at them and said, these two are lesbians and they're not allowed to do this. Yes. And that's what Jules's mother does, right? It's the inherent assumption that they are actually together. And then in Jess's world, other people see them together and they just assume that they're together. Like there's this weird, like, and how they respond to it. So it's very progressive, I guess. And I know we're not allowed to say that word in Minnesota, but like, it is. Oh no,
like, we are. Yeah.
Yeah. Liberal. Oh no.
In Minneapolis, we are
preferred.
Yes.
Right.
Yes.
Excuse me. But it is it is ahead of its time, and there's a lot of movies that came out in that sort of mid '90s to early 2000s that had that.
Yes.
And this was not aggressively. I mean, it's very clearly pro. Sexuality in a very advanced way. But it's not in our face. The only thing that we hear is Jess's friend who actually comes out as gay.
Yes.
Like that's
a great story.
It's a great little scene. And so that's, I think for me is what I really liked about it is it's so advanced in the sense of none of those stories are a big deal.
Yeah, absolutely.
Right. And so they don't make it into these two. These are just two friends who are navigating the world, either having a crush on the same boy or, it's, and having to deal with parents who assume because they're in a butch sport. Like, it really is ahead of its game.
It's a big deal for the parents, like the generational thing, but the, late teens at the time, it was not a big deal.
No. Yeah.
Like, just like, oh, yeah, you're gay. We can figure it out. Like, no big deal. So I did not remember that at the time.
Yeah.
And so, yes, it's a funny kind of microcosm of the time thinking through the parents having a big deal. I mean, we had that thing with like our parents talking about like, well, our uncle, like we're like, yeah, whatever, no big deal. So it's a generational conversation.
Yeah.
That's really interesting to see in hindsight that I totally forgot about, where they're just playing a sport that might be stereotypically that way. And the parents are like freaking out, like kids are like, what are you talking about? We don't care.
It's not a big deal.
Not a big deal.
Right. Yeah. It's like our kids aren't going to give two shits about this stuff down the road.
Like,
right. Exactly. I mean, it's all generational, but I always find it funny, like in all these movies, it's always the mom who is this.
It is.
In Big Fat Greek Wedding too.
Yes.
It's always the mom who is like this over the top, crazy controlling, like whatever, and then the dad swoops in to like save the day in the end.
Absolutely.
I know. I mean, so it's obviously like real life. I mean, we are
the dads are the coolest,
the cool-headed
aspect.
Yep, and most accepting when it comes to their daughters.
Yes,
right. But anytime it's a man, it's the other way around. It's so funny. Like there are these tropes in these films, and every time anytime it's a woman who's this, the mom is this absurd. And so both moms are these absurd, controlling B words.
Yes.
Like, it's so funny to watch. And then the dads sort of like come in and like, yes, dear. And then right at the last minute, the dads like come in and they save the day. And I'm not saying it in a reality standpoint. I think it is sort of this like, that's just not based in reality. Like, I mean, that is where it's like, really? Like we have this every damn time?
But I'm a sucker for those. So yes, in this
you're
we're
the
like,
dad, right?
Yes, of the dad of a daughter,
and you have a controlling B of a wife. Hold on 1 second.
Yeah,
that's weird.
Whoa.
She's never gonna listen to it anyway, so it's irrelevant.
Yeah. Well, Earmuffs, yes.
Earmuffs,
Exactly.
earmuffs, yeah.
But no, I'm a sucker for movies where, yes, the two main characters, fathers, are, for Jules, her dad's like, yeah, soccer's awesome, or football. Like, she should love it. Get out of the way. And then for...
he's encouraging her.
Yes.
Yeah.
I forget the main one character. Yeah. Anyway.
Jess.
Yes, Jess. Thank you. Her dad, I love it where he comes to see her playing and sees how good she is.
Yeah.
And then is kind of that protective barrier in many ways for her side of the story with her family and the dynamics. So yeah, I'm absolutely a sucker for any movie like this where the dad is kind of that like rallying cry around it. So,
well, I mean, I joke about it, but the reality is in film history, typically the father is the one who is more quick to judge and kick somebody out of the house.
Yes.
For their sexuality.
Yes.
Like, it's almost always the father who's like, nope, not in my house. We don't do this.
Yes.
And so, I mean, there is a bit of a refreshing side of that.
Yeah.
But both moms are a bit stereotypical.
They
and that's
are.
sort of like,
They are.
okay.
Yes.
You know what I mean? Like, and again, I know very little. I do know some, but I know very little about the, say, Indian culture.
Yes.
And I get that that's probably part of it, but it's just like, so I guess probably more Jules's mom felt very forced.
It did,
whereas Jess's mom felt very sort of like real.
Much more authentic.
A writing standpoint, right?
Yes.
I mean, the director is of Indian descent. And,
Yes.
I mean, so she probably has more of a personal feel to that.
Yes.
And so whereas like Jules's mom was like, okay, I mean, we know where this is going. Can we just get to the acceptance part?
But what's great about it is that the main characters aren't gay.
Right.
It's all the
assumption,
misperceptions
right?
of the
Yeah.
parents that come into this and think about how they would react to it. And that's what I think makes it a really interesting
For sure.
thing, where it's not
It's
a
a really
story
well-done
of the
movie,
main
yeah.
characters doing this. It's like the generational differences and thinking, oh, no, you misunderstood what was happening.
Yeah, this is on you.
Yes, in these
Right.
situations. So, yeah, I do like that. Can I say I was really surprised? I will say, sorry,
okay.
I will say, I was really surprised the number of musical montages used to keep this movie afloat. Like, I stopped counting at 8.
I know, it's like a real Indian film, right?
I truly
There's just
stopped
music.
counting at 8.
Yeah.
Well, most stereotypes of the Indian movies have like a wedding involved. So, fine. There
I
we go.
love actually
But
the story behind that wedding.
but-
We can get to that. But yeah.
there were like 8 montages before I stopped counting. And I'm all about the good.
Oh, we
Have
all
have
love
a
a good
montage.
Even Rocky
But
does.
it was fascinating watching me. Like, they are moving this along
Yeah.
and capturing tons of kind of exposition that we like condensed in the tight window with at least a dozen montages of musical things moving on. So yeah, kudos to them.
Which I think whichever Spice Girl wrote that song of Independence Day or whatever, that this is it Mel B or whatever?
Yeah.
She did rewrite it for this movie to like fit a little bit better, I guess. So,
Yeah.
I mean, like there is some of like they knew like you're gonna come in at $5 million, you got to do your best to
Yes.
tap into whatever you can, right?
Yep.
And this is all obviously pre social media and things like that.
Yep.
Which would be interesting if we keep going on this and we end up in a social media era, like just to see the
Social
difference
network.
of right, yeah, social network. Similar to that, but just like I look, we all love Ted Lasso, right? We all love it.
Yes!
It's amazing. But one thing I love about this, and similar I love about Ted Lasso, is boy, it is not about the soccer, because if you watch the actual soccer / football in this, you're like, yo, an 8th grade boys team would beat these people. Like,
Yeah.
this is garbage
Yes.
footage.
Yes.
I love, like, and I think that's why I like it, is because it proves that it's not about that. They didn't
Yes.
seek out although actually quite a lot of these women were actual professional /
Soccer players.
yeah, but like British national soccer players.
Sure.
So I mean, they had accuracy in terms of the people they were using, but boy, the footage is just garbage.
Yeah.
And it is similar with Ted Lasso. You're
Yes.
just like, nope, this whatever soccer
It's a
scene
means
is
to
happening
an
right
end,
now
yes.
is like, let's just move on here. These
Yeah.
are actors doing a thing.
Yes.
Um,
Well, I actually think about that
but
point.
I like it. It's meant to be secondary. The point is the story is what's important.
Yes.
So all of these sports scenes are supposed to be secondary, and that's why.
Yes.
And the irony is this is the highest grossing soccer film of all time. So,
Well, and I think about watching it now, 20 years after when it came out, but having seen Ted Lasso and then a great show, Welcome to Wrexham, it actually helps retroactively inform a movie like this.
yeah.
Because I think, I guess I'm not lived in it like Americans maybe that love soccer, but I couldn't like, it's,
I'm one of them. Yeah.
yeah, but to the level of like
Yeah.
the
I mean,
obsessive,
I'm not,
like
right. Yeah.
kind of culture. So I remember watching it originally thinking, yeah, it's a fun movie, but having no idea about the mechanics and kind of the competitive aspect to it of like how it actually
Yeah.
works from a sporting thing. And watching it now after having seen those two shows,
Yeah.
it made me appreciate the
There's an
movie
appreciation
more
of it. Yeah.
because I'm like, oh, now I see
Especially
like,
Wrexham.
how, like the ties, all these things go into it. Yeah, especially Wrexham. So yeah, I'm happy to have seen it now after these other shows have come out. Yes.
It is hard to watch this movie with the knowledge, and I'm assuming you don't know this, but there was a female professional league at the time in America. That
Well, yeah, I mean they had like the World Cup,
right?
and stuff.
Yeah. Well,
exactly.
but there was a few.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Like Chastain. Oh yeah,
But there was an actual female professional league that went bankrupt 3 weeks after this movie came out. And so the movie comes out
because
and
it's
they're
like about like
talking about going
scouting.
to America. It's gonna be this great thing. I know.
I
And
didn't
you're
know
like,
that.
yeah.
No. Oh my god, it's so great.
I know.
Oh god.
They went bankrupt 3 weeks after this, and they disbanded
American
the league.
Scouts.
Yeah, American Scouts are coming. And you're like, oh, buddy. Oh, honey.
Yikes.
I know. It is just
3
like
weeks bankrupt.
3 weeks after this movie was
Oh
released,
my
it
God.
went bankrupt. And there is no, I mean, there is now a female soccer league in America again, but not it. They made it. They make it seem like it
Yes.
is this competitive
So
to the
huge thing. Yes.
the men's Premier League and a la
my
Wrexham
God.
or whatever. It's just
That's
just cracks me up.
hilarious.
I really only have one other final thought, which is it's not even a trivia, but again, I had this with Old School.
Yeah.
But it's interesting to me. So Parminder Nagra, who plays Jess,
Yep.
she went out for the role, but she was worried that she wouldn't get the role. Not because she wasn't talented, but do you want to guess why she thought she wouldn't get it?
No, I have no idea.
It's not even trivia, but it is interesting. She has a severe burn on her leg. And is so
Well, like in real life?
correct. Yeah.
Really?
So she actually had that and she thought she would not get it because she had to wear shorts or whatever. And they wrote it into the role
That's
for
cool.
her. Right. So
Okay,
they
that's
wanted
cool.
her in it. And it was like, so they ended up writing that whole subplot of this movie of having so it wasn't even makeup.
Why
That's
she-
literally her
oh.
leg. So why she wouldn't want to show her legs.
Which is great, not like
wasn't
a cultural
cultural.
thing.
It was
Nice.
actually, yeah.
I
So
had
it
no
was this
idea.
weird thing. She wanted this role and she almost didn't go out for it because she had this self-conscious body thing, and that's actually her leg. That's actually her. I know, and I was like,
That's cool.
I know. It kind of makes you tear up a little bit.
Yeah,
You're
no,
just
that's cool.
it's-
Like to think about how they could add it in from her
Right, they
personal
wrote it-
story, and
They didn't write it for her, but it was literally
Sure.
like she went out for it. They find out about it. I was like, no, this is actually a really interesting
it is.
subplot to this. So I was like, it's not a trivia in there, but I love that fact of
That's
just
really
like,
good.
yep, this is really well done.
So a bit of a cab or a
Ooh, we have a
Quibble.
preface. Oh, quibble.
yeah.
All right.
So I actually found the love story between her,
And John Rhys Meyers.
yes,
Yeah,
to be really underwhelming.
totally.
Like
Because
it's the
John
worst.
Rhys Meyers is underwhelming. But
Yes,
anyway, yeah.
but you could have
He's
like
very brooding though.
sure, but you could have a
brooding.
character element
It's
to
like
that where it's like
Fucking ice chin.
the
whatever he's
connecting
got.
element. I just it didn't work for me. I just find the
It was
challenge
weird.
of this movie where it's like I get the whole dynamic of power and the coach and that
Mhm.
kind of thing. It just wasn't well executed.
No.
And I don't know if it's more of a reflection of him or not, but it just didn't work for me. And the characters are challenging with Jess and Jules and him, Joe, all the J's.
Yeah, no, all of them.
Like it didn't quite work, except for the one to that point. I do appreciate the dance club sequence
Mhm.
when there's no words being expressed,
Yeah.
but you can see the dynamics at play where like Joe is interested in Jess.
Yeah.
But then Jules has a thing like, so I really appreciate that type of just a movie making aspect of it. But what actually worked for me was the ending with Joe, again, her former coach, who's now not that coach, but it'd be one thing for him to express his interest and have it feel like a movie making thing. But at the end of the movie, he's learning to play cricket with Jess's father.
Yeah.
Which was a huge hindrance for him when he moved to England.
Yeah.
And the limitations he would have upon playing that.
Yeah.
And that is like the silver lining in many ways of like the romance doesn't work until at the end, it actually works.
Yeah, he's willing to sort of assimilate himself into that culture.
Yes, like it's not just like when you come back from, again, the soon-to-be bankrupt American League to come play it, but it works for the story standpoint of like he's truly committed to like learning more about her culture and that kind of thing. So it does work at the end, but it's a weird thing to get to that point where the whole movie, like, it just doesn't work. The romance to me, it's just blah.
I didn't mind the romance in theory. I don't even think it's John Rhys Meyers. I think it's the filmmaking or the actual recording. Like they always find a way to have him in this brooding position.
Yes.
Like almost like he's Blue Steel from Zoolander.
He does.
Like
shirt open, collar open. Yeah.
The frowny face bullshit.
Yes.
Like
it doesn't work.
John Rhys Meyers is a fine actor, but you're just like, what is happening here?
Yes.
So I don't even think it was necessarily so. As much as I like the film, it's like not a great writing to the point where you almost wish it wasn't in there.
I agree.
Like, because the point of the entire story is the two, like both women, and their friendship and their relationships with their family. So it felt very forced to throw a male sort of like love story in there because it didn't feel right.
Yes,
so it does feel forced.
It's kind of lazy.
Right. Whereas the rest of it, what hits most is actually what hits well. Is that stuff. So the only thing I'll add is I love that the wedding sequence is all like they put out like basically it's not even a casting call. They literally just put out to like friends and family that it was literally a wedding. Like it wasn't even like that they literally said like we're filming a wedding, not for a film. Like they did tell people, but it was so people just showed up to like
really
help them with this like wedding scene in a movie to make it authentic.
That's
and
great.
so all these people are just extras who are just in that area and they had to turn people away. And so many people show up for the wedding scenes that they were like, we can't have this. So I love that part.
That's great.
Yeah. With our reactions out of the way, that leads us into our next segment that we will call The Verdict.
I'm going up there, I'm going to try it, I'm going to let the jury decide.
This is pretty much exactly how it sounds. Each of us takes a minute to put a cap on our reviews, give a rating, and whether or not the film holds up 2 decades later. Tim, why don't you go ahead with your verdict?
So you know what you're getting from the opening sequence. You walk in and go, yep, I know what I'm signed up for. Better Like Beckham is still a fun and moving story centered around a young woman coming to terms with meeting family obligations or following her athletic obsession. While I found the love story a bit lacking, the friendship story arc with Jules, is compelling enough to add to the cultural challenges that Jess experiences with her family against a backdrop of working class London. It's a delightful movie and easy to enjoy, even knowing how it all will end. 3.5 out of 4. 3.5 out of 5 for me.
5. We're going on 5, right?
Yep.
Yeah.
3.5 out of 5.
Cool.
Yep. Cool.
I agree. So moving on.
Ditto. No. That's good.
I will say, no, just my verdict is very similar of just saying, like, again, we end up in a position of saying, so often when you look back on films, 20 years, 30 years, 40 years, you feel this forced, like, we have to make this mean something. We have to look into this and so on.
Yes.
If I recommend this to somebody, be like, well, it's been 20 years, so now it means this, or 40 years, it means this, whatever it is. This is a perfect example of a movie to me that says this encapsulates the time of that sort of early 2000s.
Yep.
And even then, you talk about your progressive part, like even beyond that, it kind of goes into things that it couldn't go too much into it.
Yeah.
But it hits on these notes really well done, but it does miss. And it doesn't go where it could have, and it doesn't go where it maybe should have. And that's where I agree. It's 3.5 out of 5 for me. It still holds up in terms of a film.
Yep.
And it's an absolute delight. Like, people in my life love this movie. It's one of their favorite movies.
Yep.
And so I would never begrudge them of it.
No.
But just know what you're getting into, right? I mean, so it is that. I agree. I don't want to go too like deep into it, but you just go, yeah, this is, it's on Disney Plus. Go seek it out, watch it, enjoy an hour and a half of your night. It's just great.
Yep.
So we come now to our final segment of the happy hour, which is Quiz Show.
The exciting quiz program 21,
where we search for trivia surrounding our subject film and try to stump the other. You said you had 2?
Not 2.
I also have 2, and I think I went first last time, so go right ahead.
So Parminder Nagra had her film breakout role as Jess in this film.
Did she? Okay.
And while she would go on to star in many television series, most prominently ER, she has really only starred in one other film. In what 2004 fairy tale movie did she star alongside Anne Hathaway?
The Princess Diaries?
No.
No? Fairy tale film?
Yes.
What am I thinking? Ella Enchanted.
Yeah, there you go.
Like, wait a second here.
No, yeah, I'm like, you'll get there.
Ella Enchanted.
Ella Enchanted was her best friend. Yep,
I've
exactly.
never seen it. So
me either.
I got there, though.
You got there. Yeah,
I got there.
Nice. Good work.
Well, you kind of ruined my next one, so I'll start with it. But yeah, I find this interesting is, so Anupam Kher plays Jess's father in this film.
Yep.
And would actually go on to play Parminder Nagra, Jess's father, again in 2004. In what long-running medical TV drama?
ER.
Yes. I love that he actually played her father yet again. A few years later.
That's funny.
But yeah.
And yeah.
There you go.
Jonathan Rhys-Meyers is one of those that guy actors where you've seen him in stuff but can't quite pin it down. You're like, oh yeah, that guy.
Yeah.
In addition to small roles in this film, Mission Impossible 3 and From Paris with Love, he's done lots of small roles in unknown films over the years. Yet in what 1998 film did he make his debut alongside Ewan McGregor, Toni Collette, and Christian Bale?
Wow. Why am I missing this one?
I stumped him out. I think I stumped him.
Ewan McGregor, Toni Collette, Christian Bale.
About some rock stars.
Yeah.
You blew it!
You're going to kick yourself.
I am going to kick myself. What is it?
Velvet Goldmine. Yeah.
I forgot about that one.
Yep. Deep cut.
In my brain, every time I hear Ewan McGregor in the 90s, I think of Trainspotting. And
yep.
So it's
like, nope, not those.
Yeah.
Yep. Velvet Goldmine.
It's a good movie, actually.
Nice.
Should have, yeah.
Yep.
This is what happens when you force feed me booze.
Exactly. Lots of high ABV beer. Yep.
Okay. All right. You're going to love this one because it's
can't
obscure.
wait.
So Frank Harper plays Jules's father. We're going with father trivia on my end.
Whoa. Okay.
Who supports her as a soccer, whatever. So Frank Harper plays Jules's father in this movie. And while he's not necessarily known for a lot of other roles, or really any, he does have a very key supporting role as the character who gets robbed by some pretty inept robbers in what 1998 Guy Ritchie classic film. And I gave that to you right there.
Right there. Lock, Stock, and Two Smoking Barrels.
Yeah. So he's the guy who gets his weed stolen from him.
That's him?
Yeah, If you see him, you're gonna be like, "Yep, there it is."
That's him.
Yeah, he's got a specific name in it, but anyway, yeah.
That's really good.
Anything
Nice.
Anything I can do to bring up Lock, Stock, and what that did when I was in high school, I was like,
game
Lock,
changer.
Stock.
Game changer. That one. Oh man.
That's an example of there are many or not many, but I always like. What filmmaker or even artist of any kind, even like musician, like one hit wonder or like who had their best first?
Yes,
right
away.
It might be like there might be whatever artists. There's musical artists who have their best song first and they have a great career, but their best song is first.
Yes.
Guy Ritchie to me,
absolutely.
I don't care what he does. He's
Yes.
done good movies since then. I love him.
He's
But
fine.
Lock, Stock is, anything I can do to bring up that movie.
Good cut. Nice.
All right, well, that brings us to the end of our happy hour episode on Bend It Like Beckham. If you haven't already, please go back and listen to our previous episodes, all featured on your favorite streaming platforms. And stay tuned for our next episodes on The Last Samurai, where we will watch that together, and our happy hour on A Mighty Wind. It'll be very interesting, because apparently Tim has not seen that movie.
Never. So excited.
We want to say thank you for taking the time to listen and for clicking that like and subscribe button on your devices. Man, I need to go to bed.
Beer.
Find us on Twitter at years_peers or on Facebook, or head to 20years4beers.com. This has been 20 Years 4 Beers. My name is Steve.
I'm Tim.
Thanks for listening.
Thanks. Don't look at me.
Chaiwala, why don't you go to your Chai Papa?
Nelson Sabo, Rowana, Otuaka. Yes,
Yeah,
the dads are the coolest
the cool-headed
aspect.
Cut!
Whoa, okay.